Well, all the cool kids are doing mock drafts, so thought it was about time I did one too. So in this episode, I'm going to go over 2 mock drafts that I did using Pro Football Focus's Mock Draft Simulator. If you haven't tried PFF's Mock Draft Simulator, it's great. You do need a subscription, but it's fully interactive, has mechanisms for doing trades, allows you to set settings based on different criteria such as drafting for positional need, randomness, things like that. Have to admit, it's a little addicting. I've probably done a couple hundred of these things, but definitely a great way to get into the draft. So to prepare for this show, I did a couple dozen mock drafts on top of the dozens that I've done over the last couple of weeks, and found what I thought were 2 of the better drafts, or at least the ones that I liked better. One of these drafts involves no trades, a straight up pick the players that are available at the positions where the Cardinals currently have draft picks. The second mock draft that I'm going to share today does involve a trade where the Cardinals moved back 2 spots and picked up a second-round pick. I do need to note that I'm not completely confident that the trade I was able to make was realistic. The PFF system does have coding built in that will reject or accept trades based on some sort of point system they've developed, but I do feel like I got more out of this trade than I would realistically expect moving back 2 spots in the first round. So, with that said, let's get into the mock drafts. In the first mock draft, you see that I started out with J.C. Horn, cornerback out of South Carolina. He's widely viewed as one of the top 3 cornerbacks in this class, and he's probably my favorite of the top 3. I think he has higher upside than Patrick Surtain II, and he is aggressive in press man coverage. And obviously, he fits one of the greatest areas of need for the Cardinals right now, outside cornerback. At pick 49 in the second round, I selected tight end Pat Freiermuth from Penn State. Freiermuth is a big, strong tight end who's earned the nickname Baby Gronk for his physical style of play. He's not Kyle Pitts, but he could be a really solid addition here in the second round, also filling a position of need on this roster. At pick 160 in the 5th round, I picked halfback Elijah Mitchell out of Louisiana. Mitchell isn't one of the elite running backs in this class, but he could be a solid addition to that running back room with James Conner and Chase Edmonds. With pick 243 in the 7th round, I picked Quinton Bohanna, defensive interior lineman from Kentucky. Bohanna profiles as a nose tackle, which is a position of need for the Cardinals. He has some really great traits for the position, and scouts think if he can get his weight down a little bit, he could be a real difference maker as a traditional nose tackle in the NFL. And with the last pick, pick 247 in the 7th round, I selected edge rusher William Bradley King out of Baylor University. So the thought process here was to do something kind of like what the Baltimore Ravens do. If you follow the draft, you know that the Ravens have a couple strategies in the draft that really work out well for them. And one of those is to draft developmental edge rushers late in the draft. They usually get one almost every year, somewhere between rounds 3 and 7. They develop those guys, and usually in their 2nd or 3rd year, they become decent starters, and sometimes they sign them, but often they let them move on. And if that player does move on, it helps them get compensatory picks the following year. Now we're going to look at the mock draft in which I traded back a few spots and picked up a 2nd-round pick. Now you'll notice a lot of the players on my first draft ended up on this draft as well, starting with J.C. Horn, the cornerback out of South Carolina. Having 2 picks in the 2nd round, I drafted not only tight end Pat Freiermuth, but I also picked up running back Javonte Williams out of North Carolina. Williams is considered one of the top 3 running backs in this class by most experts, and some people even have him as their top running back. To be honest, I don't think he's going to last all the way to the 49th pick in the actual draft, but he was there, so I took him. With the 160th pick in the 5th round, I took edge rusher Malcolm Kuntz from Buffalo. I picked Kuntz here based on the same rationale as the Bradley King pick from the previous draft. A developmental pass rusher who could hopefully eventually become a starter, though Kuntz does seem to have more upside than Bradley King. Once again, I picked Quinton Bohanna, the potential nose tackle out of Kentucky. Finally, with the 247th pick in the 7th round, I picked Robert Jones, tackle out of Middle Tennessee State University. Again, when you get to this point in the draft, you're looking for developmental players who maybe you can work with and eventually turn into potential starters or at least depth players. And Robert Jones is one of those offensive linemen who fits that mold. He didn't start playing football until his junior year in high school, so he's a little bit raw, but he has a lot of the physical traits and the mentality that you look for in offensive linemen. And when you're looking for a developmental player, you're really looking for those kinds of traits. Overall, I feel pretty good about both these drafts. I think some of the players I picked aren't actually going to be available as late as they were in this mock, but you never know how things play out in real life. So who are you hoping the Cardinals pick? Tell me about it in the comments below. I'd love to hear. And while you're at it, please click the subscribe button and the like button. And if you'd like to be notified when I post new videos, hit the bell as well. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time on the Cardinal Rule.